Most people fail at achieving their goals not because they don't work hard enough, but because they're following the wrong process. Ray Dalio built the world's largest hedge fund using a simple 5-step system that anyone can copy, and it works for everything from business to relationships to personal growth. Ray Dalio started Bridgewater Associates from a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in New York City back in 1975. Today, it's the biggest hedge fund on the planet, managing over $160 billion. Time magazine put him on their list of the 100 most influential people in the world. But here's the thing that Dalio himself says. It's not him that's special. It's the process he follows. Think about it. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants to reach their goals. But most people just wing it. They try one thing, it doesn't work, they get frustrated, and they quit. They never stop to ask why they failed or what they could do differently next time. Dalio realized early on that success isn't random. It follows a pattern. And if you can break down that pattern into clear steps, you can repeat it over and over again. The 5-step process he created has driven billions of dollars in returns and helped thousands of people get what they want out of life. It's not complicated. Actually, it's almost too simple. When people first hear these 5 steps, they think it's just common sense. But here's the secret. Almost nobody actually does all 5 steps correctly. And the difference between doing them halfway and doing them completely changes everything. So what are these 5 steps? They're simple to understand, but hard to execute. Step 1, have clear goals. Step 2, identify problems and don't tolerate them. Step 3, diagnose problems to find their root causes. Step 4, design solutions to get around those problems. And step 5, do what's necessary to push through to results. Now, before we break down each step, there's something crucial to understand. These steps form a loop. Once you finish all 5, you look at your new results and start over again with higher goals. This is how evolution works. This is how you grow. Each time through the loop, you level up. Each time, you get better at the process itself. Dalio calls this the personal evolutionary process, and it's the foundation of everything he teaches. Also, nobody is naturally good at all 5 steps. You're probably strong in some areas and weak in others. Maybe you're great at setting goals but terrible at following through. Or maybe you're amazing at execution but you never stop to diagnose what's actually causing your problems. The key is to know where you're weak and either get better at those steps or find people who can help you with them. All right, let's dive into each step and see exactly how to apply this process to get whatever you want. Number 1, have clear goals. The first step sounds obvious, but most people mess this up right from the start. Having clear goals means knowing exactly what you want to achieve, not what sounds good, not what other people think you should want, what you actually want. Dalio says to be audacious here. Don't limit yourself based on what you think is possible right now. If you think something is impossible, that's only because you don't know enough yet. Once you start moving toward big goals, new paths open up that you couldn't even imagine before. Things that seemed impossible suddenly become doable. But here's where people go wrong. They confuse goals with desires. A desire is something like, I want to be rich, or I want to be happy. Those are vague feelings. A goal is specific and measurable. Instead of, I want to be rich, a real goal would be, I want to build a business that generates $10,000 per month in profit within 2 years. See the difference? One is a wish. The other is a target you can actually aim for and hit. Another mistake is confusing goals with tasks. The goal is the outcome you ultimately want. The task is what you need to do to get there. If your goal is to get fit, the tasks might be going to the gym 3 times a week and eating more protein. The goal and the tasks are different, and you need to keep them separate in your mind. And here's a critical piece of advice from Dalio. When you're setting goals, just set goals. Don't think about how you're going to achieve them yet. Don't worry about obstacles or limitations. That comes later. Right now, in this step, you're only defining where you want to go. If you start thinking about barriers while setting goals, you'll automatically lower your standards. You'll set smaller goals that feel safer. Don't do that. One more thing about goals. Dalio warns against making money your primary goal. He says meaningful work and meaningful relationships make you way happier than money does. Sure, you need enough money to cover the basics, a comfortable place to live, good food, financial security. But once you have that, more money doesn't really increase happiness much. So start with your real goals, the things that actually matter to you, and then work backwards to figure out how much money you need to support those goals. The bottom line, be crystal clear about what you want. Write it down, make it specific, make it measurable, and make it big enough to excite you. Number 2, identify problems and don't tolerate them. Once you have clear goals, you're going to start moving toward them. And that's when problems show up. Always, without fail. This is where most people give up or pretend the problems don't exist. But Dalio says this step is absolutely critical. You have to identify problems and you cannot tolerate them. Think of problems as feedback. They're telling you that something in your approach needs to change. If you ignore them, they'll just keep getting bigger until they become impossible to ignore. Dalio uses a powerful image here. He says ignoring problems is like ignoring dragons. At first, they're small and manageable, but if you hide them and pretend they're not there, they grow and grow until one day they're so huge you can't escape them. Here's the thing people don't understand. Problems are not failures. Problems are just part of the journey. If you're pushing your limits and trying to achieve something difficult, you're going to encounter problems. That's how it works. Dalio even says if you're not failing, you're not pushing hard enough. Failure is not the end of your journey. It's a signal that you need to learn something and adjust your approach. But you have to be willing to face problems head on. Most people avoid this because problems are uncomfortable. They're painful. Nobody likes admitting they messed up or that something isn't working. Our egos get in the way. We want to look good. We want to feel competent. So we downplay problems or make excuses or just keep doing the same thing, hoping it'll somehow work out differently next time. Dalio says successful people are different. They welcome problems because they know each problem is actually an opportunity to learn something valuable. Every problem you solve makes you stronger. Every mistake teaches you a lesson that you can use going forward. So when a problem appears, don't run from it. Don't rationalize it away. Acknowledge it, face it, and prepare to dig into it. The key here is honesty, radical honesty with yourself. You have to be willing to say, this isn't working, or I made a mistake, or I'm not good at this. That takes courage, but without that honesty, you can't move forward. Number 3, diagnose problems to get at their root causes. This is where things get really interesting, and it's the step most people completely skip. When something goes wrong, the natural reaction is to immediately jump to a solution and try to fix it. But Dalio says that's a huge mistake. Before you try to solve anything, you need to diagnose what actually caused the problem in the first place. Here's why this matters so much. Most problems you see are just symptoms of a deeper issue. If you only fix the surface problem, it's going to keep coming back in different forms. It's like treating a headache with painkillers without realizing the real problem is dehydration. The headache might go away temporarily, but it'll come back until you fix the root cause. Dalio recommends spending at least 15 minutes to an hour really diagnosing each significant problem. Not just thinking what went wrong, but asking why did it go wrong over and over until you get to the real underlying cause. He even uses a technique called the 5 whys, where you keep asking why 5 times to drill down to the root. For example, let's say you missed an important deadline at work. The obvious answer is, I ran out of time. But that's not the root cause. So you ask why you ran out of time. Maybe because you started too late. Why did you start too late? Because you were working on other things. Why were you working on other things instead of the important deadline? Because you didn't prioritize correctly. Why didn't you prioritize correctly? Because you have trouble saying no to requests from other people. Now you're getting somewhere. The root cause isn't that you ran out of time. The root cause is that you don't set good boundaries, and you have a hard time prioritizing based on importance rather than urgency. See how different that is? If you just solved the surface problem by working faster next time, you'd still have the same issue. But if you solve the root cause by learning to prioritize better and set boundaries, you fix not just this problem, but a whole category of future problems. Dalio makes an important distinction here between proximate causes and root causes. Proximate causes are the immediate actions that led to the problem. They're usually described with verbs. I didn't check the schedule, or I forgot to send the email. Root causes go deeper and are usually described with adjectives. I am disorganized, or I am forgetful. You need to solve the root causes, not just the proximate ones. And here's the part that's really uncomfortable. Sometimes the root cause is you or someone on your team. It's not bad luck. It's not circumstances. It's a person who isn't skilled enough or isn't the right fit for the role. Dalio says this is the most painful part of diagnosis, but it's also the most important. You have to be willing to look at yourself and others objectively and ask, what is it about this person, including yourself, that led to this outcome? Most people resist this. They want to blame external factors. They want to avoid personal accountability. But Dalio says the people who reach their potential are the ones willing to look at themselves honestly and understand the root causes standing in their way. This requires serious self-awareness and courage. The big mistake people make at this stage is treating every problem as a one-off incident. They fix it and move on without asking if there's a pattern. Maybe the problem is that someone on your team keeps making the same type of error, or maybe you keep sabotaging your own goals in similar ways. Pay attention to patterns. Those patterns reveal the real root causes that you need to address. Number 4, design plans to get around problems. Once you've diagnosed the root cause, now you can design a solution. And here's where creativity comes in. You've identified the real problem. Now you need to figure out how to get around it. This is important. You're not trying to force yourself to be someone you're not. If the problem is that you're terrible at details and you keep making mistakes, the solution probably isn't to just try harder at being detail-oriented. That rarely works. Instead, you might design a system that catches your mistakes, or you might bring in someone who is naturally good at details to handle that part. Dalio talks about surrounding yourself with people who are strong where you're weak. Maybe the solution to your problem is changing your job to one that fits your strengths better. Maybe it's hiring someone. Maybe it's creating a checklist or a new process that prevents the problem from happening again. Whatever it is, you need to get around the specific thing that's blocking you. Think of yourself as a machine. If a part of the machine keeps breaking, you don't just keep fixing that same part over and over. You redesign the machine so that part doesn't break anymore. You might replace the part. You might add a new component. You might change how the whole system works. The same goes for your life and work. When designing your plan, be specific. Don't just say, I'll be more organized. That's too vague. Instead, say, every Sunday evening, I'll spend 30 minutes planning the week and identifying my top 3 priorities. Each morning, I'll spend 10 minutes reviewing those priorities before checking email. See how much more actionable that is? Another crucial element, write your plan down where everyone can see it. Make it visible, make it clear. Include the specific tasks, the timeline, and how you'll measure success. Dalio says to think of your plan like a movie script. Visualize exactly what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, and who's doing what. The more detailed and concrete your plan, the easier it is to execute. And don't be afraid to try different solutions. If something doesn't work, that's okay. You'll diagnose why it didn't work and design a better plan. This is all part of the evolutionary loop. Each iteration makes you smarter and more effective. Number 5. Do what's necessary to push through to results. This is the final step, and it's where a shocking number of people fail. They've set clear goals. They've identified problems. They've diagnosed root causes. They've designed brilliant solutions. And then they don't actually do the work. Dalio says this happens all the time. People come up with amazing plans and then they just don't execute. Why? Because execution is hard. It requires discipline. It requires showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. It requires pushing through discomfort and resistance. This step is about turning your well-designed plan into reality. It's about building habits and creating an environment that supports your goals. If your plan requires you to go to the gym every morning, you need to set up your life so that actually happens. Maybe that means laying out your gym clothes the night before. Maybe it means finding a workout partner who holds you accountable. Maybe it means scheduling it in your calendar like a non-negotiable appointment. The key is to build your principles into your daily habits and into the structure of your life. Don't rely on willpower alone. Willpower runs out. Instead, create systems and routines that make the right actions automatic. Dalio also talks about the importance of remembering your why during this stage. When things get tough and you want to quit, you need to reconnect with the reason you set this goal in the first place. What's driving you? What will it mean to achieve this? Keep that vision front and center, especially when the work gets hard. Another critical piece: track your progress and measure it against your plan. This lets you see if you're actually moving toward your goal or if something needs to adjust. If you're not making progress, you go back through the steps. Maybe the plan needs tweaking. Maybe you missed a root cause in your diagnosis. The process is iterative. You keep cycling through it, getting better each time. Dalio says that nothing can stop you if you have two things: flexibility and self-accountability. Flexibility lets you try different paths when one doesn't work. Self-accountability means you take responsibility for the results instead of blaming external factors. With those two qualities, you can push through almost anything. Execution is also where your principles get tested and refined. As you're doing the work, you'll discover what works and what doesn't. You'll develop new insights. You'll get better at the process itself. Each time through the loop, you're not just reaching a goal. You're also training yourself to be better at reaching goals in general. So here's what this whole 5-step process looks like in practice. You set a clear, audacious goal. You start working toward it, and problems show up. You don't ignore those problems. Instead, you face them head-on and diagnose what's really causing them. You design a creative plan to get around the root causes, and then you execute that plan with discipline and flexibility. Once you achieve that goal or learn what you need to learn from the attempt, you set a new, higher goal and go through the entire process again. Over time, you're not just accomplishing more. You're becoming someone who's really good at accomplishing things. You're building a better machine. The beauty of Dalio's system is that it applies to everything. Want to build a business? Use the 5 steps. Want to improve a relationship? 5 steps. Want to get in shape? 5 steps. Want to learn a new skill? 5 steps. The framework stays the same. Only the specific goals and problems change. Most people wander through life reacting to whatever happens. They don't have a clear process for achieving what they want. They try things randomly, get discouraged when it's hard, and settle for less than they're capable of. But now you know better. You have a proven system used by one of the most successful people on the planet. The question is, will you actually use it? Will you set clear goals instead of vague wishes? Will you face problems instead of avoiding them? Will you dig deep to find root causes instead of just treating symptoms? Will you design real solutions and actually execute them? That's the difference between people who reach their potential and people who don't. It's not talent, it's not luck. It's the willingness to follow a disciplined process for getting what you want out of life.